Brandon. And when I met with the family on Sunday, I was awed by the words that you shared about your wife, mother, and grandmother. They were all superlatives. The most adored wife, the best mom ever, the most loving grandmother, the teacher that everyone remembered 20 years later, the most compassionate sister to Amy, who was born with Down syndrome, and to David and Billy. Gail lived her life always giving back to others and making their lives better. Through her teaching career, which began in Highland Park and ended at the JCC of Ocean Township after 27 years of working in that location, she began volunteering at Monmouth Medical and mentoring families who also had children or relatives who had Down syndrome and mental illness, to help them understand how to reach out to their family members in the gentlest, kindest ways possible, and to understand who they truly were and to appreciate each and every person for their differences. She loved to cook Italian feasts, and she showed her love through cooking delicious foods and entertaining. She could turn any brown plant into green, which is a gift that I will never have. And so I admire that so much in people who are able to do that. She showed up for the people that she loved all the time. Whether, as you guys shared, through your sporting events or anything that was happening at school, you could be sure that she was there in her chair, watching and cheering you on. She was just so proud to be a mother and a grandmother in every single way. She was hands-on with everything she did, not only as a teacher, but also as a parent. And I can't imagine working with kids each and every day and then coming home and being a better parent to your own child. I know that my mother, as a director of education, would come home to us and say, "You will never believe what I learned from my kids today." And my sister and I grew up saying, "What do you mean, her kids? We're her kids." But your mom was able to make everyone feel like they were her kid and that they were seen and heard and understand, especially Rich and Stuart. You were so lucky to have a woman like that in your life. And so it's up to us to remember her strength and all that was good and blessed in her life. We remember her wisdom, her tenacity, yes, her stubbornness, her voice in song and in reading books, the way that she treasured relationships with her family, many nieces and nephews and friends. And I want to remind everyone, and I'm going to keep reminding you today, that we are burying a body that has given out. It is not the essence of Gail. If you knew Gail, you know that she is always a part of your heart, and that as her inheritors, we live life the way that she did, comforting people, surrounding them with the things that they loved, and always showing up. A poem by David Harkins, "She Is Gone." You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile that she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left behind. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that you once shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she's gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back. Or you could do what she would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. She will never be lost. We learn in the Talmud that when someone speaks someone else's name, they become alive again. So keep telling stories of Gail, of your sister, your wife, your mother, your grandmother. Keep her name alive and she will live. We read from Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. There is a time for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time for planting and a time to uproot that which has been planted, a time for despairing and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time for wailing and a time for building up, a time for wailing and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time for tearing and a time for sowing, a time for silent and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time of peace. These days are the days of remembrance, of telling stories that make you laugh or give you tremendous joy, of remembering her eggplant parmesan, which I've heard was probably the best in the entire world, and I'm sorry that I missed that. So, but maybe when you put together her book of recipes. Oh, okay, perfect, thank you. I'm coming over to eat. It's time to remember the incredibly beautiful inside-out woman that Gail is and will always be. I'm going to ask at this time that those who know her best come up and share some memories. And I invite at this time Zach and Wesley to speak. Wesley.
All right, hello everyone. I want to first extend my gratitude to all the relatives, friends, and do you want to read it? Might be better.
No, hey, just I got you.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I got you. I'm the grandson spokesperson for our various folks, and I just so Wesley wanted to say he wanted to first extend his gratitude to all the relatives, friends, and attendees who have come to honor one of the greatest people he knows, Gail Newman. The amount of people who have shown up and traveled a long way to pay their respects to this wonderful woman is only a testimony to the lives she personally touched. All of us may know her as different things like mother, wife, cousin, or many other things alike. I've been privileged to know her as my grandmother, Grandma Gail. It was one morning when I woke up ill and had to stay home from school. Both of my parents were working and had no other choice but to spend the day at my beloved grandparents' house. At first, all I wanted was pancakes and to watch a show like Bubble Guppies. But after I stepped in the front door, this was the best thing that could happen to a sick boy. This was the most caring woman that has ever been placed into my life. One of my few memories from being a youngster was her reading me a book, and she always knew how to pick the right book, her tucking me in, and comforting me until I went to sleep. She would stay with me through my rest, making sure I was relaxed. This is how caring she was. This was my grandma. After this rest, I would have the most beautiful meal with some blueberries and some toast, prepared to perfection. This is also my grandma. She was truly the most sweet, caring, and most lovely person you could ever meet. Before I step away from this podium, I want to ask you a question. When you hear the name Gail Newman, what word comes to mind? If you are like me, there isn't a single word to choose from. This is how great of a person she was. I came up with a few words like caring and loving, but I could truly go on forever with words. This is also my grandma. Rest in peace, Grandma. You will be deeply missed, but never forgotten. I love you to the moon and back. And this is from Brandon. One moment. My name is Brandon, and I'm the grandson of Grandma Gail. I want to take a minute and tell you about what an incredible person my grandma was. My grandma was one of the most selfless people that I know. She always looked to put others before her in her job and in her own life. She was an excellent cook, person, and an even better grandma. Some of my favorite memories with Grandma were helping her cook, watching Super Bowl games with her, and eating dinners with her. I also remember eating blueberries at her house. She was an amazing teacher and mentor. Some of the kids that she had were my friends now, and one in particular told me how amazing of a teacher she is. She left an amazing legacy, and I'm glad that you're able to see it today. Thank you, Brandon. Okay, so I'm going to go into, this is my part 3. Thank you all so very much for being here. My name is Zach Newman, and I'm one of Gail's grandsons. I'm here to share some things about Grandma on behalf of myself, my brother Ben, who I know wishes he could be here, and my partner Nicole. Grandma loved many things, most of all her family, cooking, and reading. And despite living 4 miles from the beach, she hated it. She didn't like the sand, and as someone who loves the beach and lives near the mountains, I always thought that was funny that she lived so close to the thing that I loved, and she would only go to spend time with us, which I think is a very grandma move. That she would be willing to deal with the sun and the sand, just to spend time with us. She really prioritized family over comfort. However, if you brought sand into her house, there would be wrath to pay. I remember many times being like, Zachary, get the sand off your feet before you come in here. And I tried, but I didn't always do a good job at us. Something, before she passed, we did a thing called Storyworth where we would send some questions and they would answer it each week. And Grandma wasn't a huge fan of that, but when she did hang in there and do some of them, one of the things that stood out, she wrote to me that she always wished she could sing. She wrote, if I could pick talents I would like to be able to sing. When I was teaching in preschool, I could not carry a tune, and it was difficult for the children to get it right. And Grandma was always very self-aware. She loved reading. She always had her nose in a book. I could picture her in her favorite chair right now in the living room with her hand across her face as she tore through pages. I love reading. I currently love reading, and I think that is at least in part from her. She surprised me with her whimsy and her willingness to try things. She loved cracking a sly joke over a beer at the dinner table. And one of my favorite memories happened a few years ago where we were celebrating Karen's 40th birthday, and there was beer pong, and to my surprise, she picked up a beer. We played beer pong. Earl was her partner, and we didn't do very well, but we had fun doing it. And there are photos of that out in the foyer. Her elbow was a little beyond the table, which we didn't hold it against her, but I loved seeing her lean into some mischievous fun. Grandma was full of grit too, through cancer, legs of different lengths after she broke her hip. She was tough, and she would tell you if she thought something was bullshit. You did not have to guess with her. She was always fired up if I was ever slightly wronged, even just a little bit. I remember her getting the only time she would be angry is if I was wronged in some way. With that grit, she had a quiet assurance that everything would be okay. I remember laying out so many different times what was stressing me, whether it was work or life or anything like that, in various phone calls, and she said it will all work out. And even when I was like, oh, it's not looking great, there's this or that, and she's like, no, it'll all work out. And when it came from her, I really did believe her, and she had that ability to reassure. Cooking for us and gathering together was Grandma's happy place. As we've talked about, Grandma really showed her love through food and was willing to toil and involve dishes with incredible results. Eggplant parm was one of her favorites, and a couple of years ago, after much cajoling, I was finally able to get her to teach me and my dad the process. And I learned a lot of her cooking is by feel, not by measurements. The eggs needed a spurt of water. The mozzarella cheese needs the thickness of a nickel, but not a dime. It was very specific. And only that specificity came from a lot of being like, okay, but how do we do it? And then she would get frustrated. It's just like, it is. You just feel it out. It just is. And the photos from that day in 2021 show her in a back brace making the chicken parm, and that teetering on uneven legs after she broke her hip to make the most amazing meals. And the highest compliment she bestowed on the food was, it turned out pretty good. She loved seeing how much I loved her food, and in a classic grandmother way, would always try to give me a bigger slice, even after I insisted that I was full. She was like, you can put away a little more. I wanted to cook like her. I became obsessed with her corn pudding recipe each Thanksgiving, and so eventually learned how to make it myself, and now that's a staple, is through her food, is allowing to continue to live on that way. We gathered last night to make eggplant parmesan as a family, and all of us played a role, whether it was slicing the eggplant or the mozzarella or the assembly or keeping us all in check, and it turned out perfectly. And I think she would have loved that we did it together. I love you and will miss you dearly, Grandma. But you will continue to live on in every pan of corn pudding and eggplant parm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to speak slowly and loudly with the hope that you can hear me, Jim. I've known Gail and Jim for 25 years, and there are so many children in Monmouth County who went through her class. She was a remarkable teacher, and I have never met a student who had her as a teacher who did not love Mrs. Newman. And her children and her husband will remember that they were Gail's husband or Gail's kids. That was often their identity, because someone had Mrs. Newman as a teacher. She was a remarkable educator. And I felt like I knew all of her grandchildren and her sons and her daughter-in-law because she spoke so eloquently of the people she loved. Gail had the most beautiful face, and every plastic surgeon should find out what she did to have that gorgeous skin with those high cheekbones. Like Heidi Klum has nothing on Gail Newman. Absolutely gorgeous woman, outside, but more so inside. She was absolutely beautiful. And Jim, you were devoted to her. Many is the time Jim would stop by the temple because Gail had been taken to physical therapy by Jim, and they wanted to come by and say hello. And they did, often, sometimes twice a week, because Gail was brought to therapy by her beloved Jim, always. And Jim worked very hard after her accidents to try to get her to be able to be strong again and independent again. So Jim, I'm going to give you a challenge. You said that Gail was a little stubborn about going to physical therapy. Well, we're going to teach you to text Jim. We're going to teach you to text on your phone. We're going to teach you so you can feel less alone. If Gail could learn to text, you can learn to text. And your grandsons are devoted to making sure, they've told me, you're going to text. You probably don't know what I just said, but you're going to text. The rabbi and I had a lot of nice conversations about you, Jim, and about Gail. And I've chosen a song to sing called Over the Rainbow in honor of Gail and her love of literature and story and beauty and her optimism, the way she always said things will work out. Important lesson for all of us to remember. When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't
happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I?
Cantor, that was funny. And our prayer is that Gail is at peace and that she's flying above, reunited with her sister and her parents, but that she's always here with all of you. Part of that song was written at a time where things were not so hopeful. And as you said, Gail treasured a sense of optimism. And that's something that we all must take as part of her legacy and give to other people. She was a teacher, and she taught people how to love each other and how to see each other. And that's what we all must do right now as we walk through life. She saw people who others couldn't see, like her sister, and those who had severe mental challenges, and she saw them. And she spoke to them softly and with loving care. And you are the beneficiaries of all these gifts and blessings and talents that she shared with the world. And so it's up to you to continue to share the way that your mom lived her life, the way that your grandmother lived her life, and Jim, the way that your wife lived, so full of love for you, always. Please rise for El Malay Rachamim.
El Malay Rachamim, Shochein, Shochem Amromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Shechina, Yim Kedoshim Utorim, Kezoraki Hamazirim, Et Nishmat, Gail Bat Malka Vishmuel, Shehal Olamim, Barachamim, Yasirei Habesei Tukanafav Olamim, Bitzror, Bitzror, Achayim and Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, V'tanuach b'shalom, V'shalom al mishkava, V'nomar, Amen.
Jim shared with me that this sanctuary was truly a sanctuary for Gail and Jim. They both love to come to Shabbat services here, to learn, to pray, and to sing. And so we learn from El Malay Rachamim, God of abundant mercy, God most high. May the soul of our loved one, Gail Bat Malka Vishmuel, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace. Together with the holy and pure whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold her close to you forever, so that her soul may be bound up of life everlasting. May she find a home with you. May she be reunited with the family that's gone before us and her beloved dogs who she loved so much. May she rest in peace forever. And together we say,
Amen.
Amen. At this time, I'd like to invite forward the pallbearers.
If you can wait 1 second, let me just fix the casket.
And Zach,
Well, where's the step forward?
Wesley, Brandon, if you wish to come forward.